Hello, grade 9s. Welcome to this online lesson where I'll be covering 4 different reproductive technologies in agriculture. Let's get right to it. So we're going to start off with the 4 different types of reproductive technologies in agriculture. And then we're going to end this lesson with a little discussion about the pros and cons of GMOs. And for those who don't know, GMOs are genetically modified organisms. So first off, here are the 4 different types of reproductive technologies often used in agriculture, so farmlands or fields where crops grow. The first one, selective breeding. The second one, artificial insemination. Thirdly, recombinant DNA. And finally, genetically modified organisms. We're going to break down each one of these 4 in more detail throughout this lesson. First off, selective breeding. So selective breeding is the most commonly used reproductive technique. And selective breeding is when 2 plants or animals of one species that have desirable traits are bred with each other by humans. After selective breeding for many generations, all of the offspring or most of the offspring should have the desirable traits that you're looking for. And we're going to play a little game on the next slide just to understand this better. But before we do that, let's look at an example. So we have a wolf. Before there were any dogs before the species dog existed, there used to be wolves. And humans selectively bred wolves to create the entire range of dog species. So this is just a fun fact that all of the dogs that you see in your daily life, they were a product of wolves being selectively bred. Next, let's play a little game. So in this game, I want you to pretend like you're a farmer. I want you to pretend like you own a big barn full of pigs, full of sows that you are going to choose. You're going to have to choose 2 of these pigs to be part of your breeding program. So let's just look at all of these different pigs. We have some smaller ones, we have some big ones. We have 13 pigs in total. Now, your job as a farmer is to choose 2 pigs to be part of your breeding program. And the question is, which 2 pigs do you choose? And why? Why do you choose those 2 pigs? So I'm just going to wait a couple seconds to let you choose 2 pigs. Okay, so hopefully you've chosen 2 pigs, and if you haven't, you can just pause the video. If I was a farmer and I wanted to choose pigs to be part of my breeding program, I would choose pigs that are big. I would choose pigs that have a lot of meat, a lot of muscle, because the more mass of meat that I can sell, the more money I will get. So the 2 pigs that I would choose are these 2. And that's how selective breeding works. Selective breeding works by choosing specific organisms that you will profit from, or that humans will profit from. Nextly, artificial insemination. So animals may not be able to conceive as quick as farmers would like. Therefore, artificial insemination is the process of collecting sperm and inserting it into a female animal of the same species. So once again, these are the 2 pigs that we chose in the previous slide, the 2 big pigs. And perhaps we can say the mating process for pigs takes a long time, and we don't want to wait. We want to get more baby pigs. So through artificial insemination, by collecting the sperm and working in a petri dish, we can speed up the breeding process and create an even bigger pig. So artificial insemination and selective breeding can go hand in hand. Nextly, recombinant DNA. So recombinant DNA involves combining genes from different individuals or different species into a single DNA molecule. Biotechnology companies use this technology to produce certain characteristics in organisms or to produce substances from organisms. Let's look at an example. We have this gene that I've circled right here. we like that gene for whatever reason. It can be a trait that we like, or it can be something that might benefit humans. So we like that gene. We are going to take it out of that organism or individual, and we're going to put it into another organism or individual. And as you've seen, the recombinant DNA now has that blue gene added to it. There can be a diverse range of results from doing this, but one of the biggest or coolest results has been the production of insulin. So insulin production, a treatment that is used across the world today, was a product of recombinant DNA. Recombinant DNA can also result in genetically modified organisms. And this brings us to our last form of technology used in agriculture, reproductive technology. First off, GMOs are organisms with genes that have been intentionally altered, often through recombinant DNA. So we have an example. The image on the left shows, you might think it's cherries, but no. Or berries, no. These are how tomatoes used to look decades back. But through recombinant DNA, by genetically modifying these tomatoes, they now are bigger, they now are juicier, and they now might even be healthier. Similarly, corn. Back in the day, corn used to look like this. Now, look at the corn. It's much, much bigger, much, much more beneficial for humans who eat corn. Similarly, this image shows two different species of cows. We have the US steer and the Becton steer. And pretty much you can see from 1978 to 2018, the size of both cows have dramatically increased. And this is once again due to genetically modifying these cows. This leads us to our next topic. What are the pros and cons of genetically modifying organisms? Firstly, some of the pros. Less pesticides need to be used because these organisms can be more resistant to beetles or any sort of insect that likes to eat these organisms. And we're looking at crops for now. Crops can have a longer shelf life. Increased food supply. So through genetically modifying organisms, we can create more food, more nutritious food, and foods that fight disease. Now, some of the cons. More pesticide resistance. So as these genetically modified organisms increase their resistance to pesticide, that can become a problem because we can get super genetically modified organisms that are just resistant to everything. So superorganisms. Genetically modified organisms, their long-term health effects are not known, or maybe some of it is known, but not all of the long-term health effects are known. Therefore, a lot of individuals like to avoid eating genetically modified organisms. And finally, if we genetically modify crops, for example, and those genes, those DNA, go to other crops that we did not mean to mix, that can be a problem for farmers. This is known as outcrossing. And finally, superweeds. This is the same thing as superorganisms that I mentioned earlier. These superweeds can just be so resistant to our pesticides, our herbicides, that it can just cause a major, major problem for farmers. Now, this activity or this assignment, I'm just going to explain in a little bit in detail. A fun thing you can try on your own is creating your own genetically modified organisms. So in this case, I have found on Google a monkey and a bird mixed. So maybe a murd or a bunkie. Also, I have an elephant with a butterfly ears, so elefly or butterfint. And finally, a penguin shark. I'm just going to call it a penguin shark. So you can create your own GMO if you would like. With that being said, thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, definitely comment below. I appreciate your time. Thank you.